Madam Mayor, members of council, community members, during the December meeting when we gladly announced that we were awarded a BSCC grant in the amount of a little over $1 million, we mentioned that we were going to come back to council with the newly approved strategic plan for the following 3 years for the South County Youth Task Force. And important to mention that this is the 11th year of the existence of the task force, and Councilmember Bracco was there from the outset, so was Bernice, and under the leadership of Chief Denise Turner. And so today I have from the District Attorney's Office now, the program manager, Bernice Aguilera Tony, another Tony in the room. And also we have our South County Youth Task Force coordinator, Sandra Cruz. And so they're going to go over the strategic goals for the task force. And obviously after this will be the strategic plan. Also, I want to share with council that I will be chair of the task force for this calendar year. So, all yours.
Thank you, Chief Espinoza. So, Madam Mayor and our honorable members of the council, my name is Bernice. I'm the South County Task Force Program Manager, and with me is Sandra Cruz, the coordinator. We're here to share with you our strategic plan for the next couple of years. Totally excited about this. Next slide, please. Do we do it again? And I am 2 weeks back from maternity leave, so bear with me as I'm navigating. I think I like this space. I'm like, ooh, technology is all right here. So as Chief Espinoza said, we started in 2012 and really grew in 2013 as a regional collaboration made of faith-based, community-based agencies, local government agencies and county agencies, and community members from Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy. We're funded through different initiatives through locals, county, and state partners. We seek our own funding and grants. We've secured a total of over $4 million that is additional to the support the city has given us in positions. Sandra Cruz, the one coordinator position, and that goes, most of it, 90% goes to community-based agencies. We've served over 13,000 unduplicated family members and youth. That's not with the funds that go to community events. Community events serve many more, thousands of folks. We also are guided by our strategic plan. So we don't just do things on a whim. We ask community in need for feedback. We ask our hotspots, we call them hotspots, in communities of Gilroy and Morgan Hill. We ask what they feel they need, because it's important to co-create programs, co-create strategies with our community, so we know that we're doing what they want us to do. And on the presentation, you can see our mission and vision statement, which has been updated. So what we did is our new strategic plan, which is Project to Thrive, really builds upon our 2017-2021 strategic plan, Thrive. This is a working subcommittee, so from the policy team that we have and a tech team, that is the movers and shakers, and then the supervisors are on the policy team. We have working committees. Some committees focus on restorative justice and restorative practices. Some focus on racial equity. Others focus on mental health conditions and mental health resources. And we have a committee that focuses on this strategic plan. We were all trained in restorative practices. That's a very important framework for the South County Youth Task Force. Love it that they did share. We have trained our community officers. We've trained our SROs. We've trained different partners within government and community-based agencies in restorative practices. And it's through listening circles where we went out in time of COVID and we held 30 listening circles. Listening is super important, right? We love to speak, but it's very challenging to hold back and hear from our community what they feel is needed for them to uplift their voice and then take that as an initiative that we're going to work into the future. In these restorative and listening circles, topics emerged that were created into themes, and then they were created into goals for the strategic plan. Important to say that multiple topics emerged that you're going to hear about it. And it's really important that we hear from the perspective of what can we do to elevate their voice and what can we do to create solutions for our youth and families.
Thank you, Bernice. And before we walk you through the strategic goals, just a brief recap of the roadmap we took to get to the strategic plan. We had a community engagement and stakeholder process phase about a year ago, February through April of last year, where we engaged in community listening circles like Bernice shared. In June of last year, we went to our policy team and presented the guiding principles and strategic themes. In September, we worked together with the Strategic Plan Committee to be able to present a first draft that incorporated all the elements to our policy team. And they recommended certain items be added, certain items be incorporated that they'd like to see. In November, we went back with a final draft, which they approved. It was a huge undertake, and it included a lot of community partners to be able to get to this draft. Currently, we are working on translating the strategic plan into Spanish, and we're also working with our strategic committee to be able to create the work plan that will guide us through steps of how to accomplish the goals that we set forward. In March, we will go back to our policy team to present the work plan, and we hope to be able to adopt the work plan that details steps on how to accomplish the goals in May. And we are also in the process of going back to listening circles to share the strategic plan with the community that we received input from. So these are our 5 strategic goals. Through a third-party consultant, these 5 goals were developed based on community stakeholder input and data taken directly from listening circles that Bernice shared about. This data was sorted on charts, and we had pages and pages of information that took the committee several sessions to process with the consultant. These 5 themes kept coming up consistently throughout the different circles, and that is why these are the 5 themes that we're focusing on as goals for the next 3 years. Each goal has about 3 to 5 objectives. They don't necessarily say how these goals will be accomplished. And however, the strategic committee will collectively work on a work plan to be able to set forward specific steps on how we will accomplish these goals in South County. So goal number 1 has to do with after-school opportunities and safe spaces for youth. Goal number 2, support for youth through local education systems. Goal 3, community engagement and safety. And goal 4 and 5 have to do with internal SCYTF functions and processes. Number 4 is SCYTF governance and structure. And goal number 5 is data performance, measurement, and sustainability for the work. And to walk us through goal number 1, I'll invite Bernice to come back up.
It's really important to say that the youngest participants in our circles were 5 and 6-year-olds, and our eldest were 80 and 85-year-olds. What we heard over and over was, in order to really support our youth, we need intergenerational support. It can't just be youth for youth. It has to be us coming together, because that is only how traumas are going to be healed for our youth and by the adults that have youth as parents. Our first goal is around having accessible opportunities and safe places in the afternoons and evenings. We know where our kids are during the day for the most part. They're in school. And there is a goal that talks about, if they're not in school, how do we reintegrate them? But everybody felt that we needed safe places where they could develop their leadership, make positive connections with caring adults, and make sure that our programs are pro-social, diverse, inclusive, and gender responsive. A young man needs very different things than a young woman, and we need to look at that as we support our youth moving forward. Our objectives that you see on the screen here, 1, 2, 3, is really to use the expertise of youth in creating and cultivating programs that they feel they want and they need, improving research to them, and making sure that we expand and have more free and low-cost opportunities for them to engage. We've all seen the youth at the library. That's become like the youth center. They want a place where they can be safe in the center of their community. And so the center for them is this space where we are right now. So having safe places, it's crucial. That's the fourth one, is we need to look at what we have, what is dilapidated and not working, and create better and more equitable access for our youth to be in those facilities. Possibly create new ones if that's a need. A couple things, let me just go back to this. A couple of their words that they shared on this goal is they have too few days of programming, and again, limited low-cost offerings, very limited access to existing facilities, or there's inadequate facilities. They feel that we need greater diversity of programs. Case management, again, been there, done that. What else can we do within our community so they don't have to travel outside of our community? Many times youth don't have vehicles or transportation for that. Outreach and engagement warrants improvements, and youth, again, want to co-design. Oops, sorry, going ahead. Goal number 2 is all about supporting our youth through our schools and having ways for youth and families to develop and be part of collaborative network of services that are coordinated with our schools and the community that they serve. It's very important to know, objective number 1, how do we get kids back into schools in a restorative way? What happens when our youth go into juvenile placements? How do we reintegrate them back and make sure they have what they need to survive and to be thriving? We talked and we heard young people say, I can't go to school and pay attention when I'm hungry, when we don't have electricity in the house. So number 2 is about providing the services and connecting them to resources to make sure they have the basic needs so that they can be in a space to want to go to school. It's also about mental health. How do we connect them and have education around the mental health supports and address the stigmas and accessibility with barriers? There's a lot of stigma around having a counselor, having a therapist. Some of it's cultural, so we have to make sure we're using a cultural lens for that. Ensuring basic needs, we talked about that. And really important is creating equitable services across communities to make sure that we're leading and having conversations with our school and partners, right? To all of you, how can we work together to create a winning formula to move the needle? And Sandra will take us to goal 3 and 4.
Goal number 3 has to do with community safety, engagement, and empowerment. Changing and improving neighborhood is a partnership between communities that live there and the local government that serves them. Engage and empower neighborhoods disproportionately impacted by crime, blight, poverty, distress, so they can advocate for themselves with local leaders and law enforcement and actively participate in making changes in their community. This has five objectives, accomplished goal number 3, and a clear example of this was previously incorporated in previous strategic plans. One of them was working with promotor leadership capacity agencies. Since 2019, we've been partnering with Visión en Compromiso to be able to bring promotor capacity training to local leaders. Our work with San Isidro, Nueva Vida, and East Gilroy, those leaders have been trained and their work has actually grown to be able to serve the larger Gilroy community. That's one clear example of the engagement and empowerment work that we've done, and community has requested that we continue working with that. Goal number 1 is having open dialogue and creating opportunities where community can engage with local government and elected officials. They want to have a closer and open relationship, positive relationship with government and elected officials. Number 2 is positive relationships specifically between the community and law enforcement, to officers to be able to have open dialogue and collaboration to create safer neighborhoods. And this was also addressed in a previous strategic plan, but the community saw it very positive and saw that there was a huge impact to public safety. Now, these folks that have been engaging with law enforcement can call, are more likely to call for services which enhances public safety. Number 3 is creating opportunities for community building, community cohesion, such as party in the park events, national night out. Number 4, offer preventative services by co-designing and co-creating with community to be able to address and solve community issues. And then number 5, ensure access to basic needs as it comes to our communities. We saw COVID impact us. We saw the Garlic Festival shooting that impacted our community, and being able to overcome distress collectively and finding local resources and collaborations that will be able to help us meet that. Goal number 4 has to do with governance and structure, to reconnect the policy team to its mission, vision, and objectives as delineated in the SCYTF charter, to narrow the policy team's member annual focus to maximize its efforts and outcomes and make improvements to its meeting agendas that can revitalize the functions as a policy team-driven entity. 3 objectives, accomplish goal number 4, develop objective number 1 is to develop work plans annual to align to the actual strategic plan, which is for the next 3 years, and provide direction from the policy team for the South County Task Force overall. And then I'll pass it over to Bernice.
So next steps for us is we finalized the English translation of it. We are now finalizing the Spanish, and so we're going to be releasing them together. It's very important given our population. Funding and sustainability. Oh,
Did I skip this? So sorry. Did skip this.
you're tired. Let's just skip
So goal number 5, this has to do with funding and service sustainability. So pursue ongoing funding to maintain the current basic service levels that the task force has, to measure program and community indicators that provide data to convey needs and be able to articulate those contributions and successes, which then turned into pursuit of additional funds. And I will highlight that through this goal, we have worked on this throughout the different strategic plans. And just recently, like Chief Espinosa mentioned, we collectively, through our one of our committees, applied for BSCC funding in August, and we were able to receive funding from the state for over $1 million to support our diversion program. Okay, now I'll pass it over to Bernice. Apologies about that.
So here we just have our contact information. We're going to be sending everybody our strategic plan in Spanish and English. We're going to be revisiting those 400 community members and say, this is what your voice created. It's really important that they see that we're just not taking from the community and listening. We're saying, we hear you, we have it documented, now we're going to work together to make it happen. And we invite you to interact and participate in our committees and the work in the future. It really is going to take all of us to move the needle. It's not about just providing services. What are we going to do to make the changes that our community deserves and is requesting? So if you have any questions, our contact information is there, and we'll entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you. Okay. Council members? I don't see any. Okay, I see Councilmember Hilton on my screen. Go ahead.
Fantastic strategic plan. I'm a big believer in strategic plans, right? So we all have a vision. We're all on the same page. You've done the deep diving. We don't have to say, well, go back and get more public feedback. You've already done that. I love it. And as policymakers, it's my job to elevate this in any way I can. Of all the goals that you had, there's many ways that we're out there in different available spaces than you are to bring back to elevate that plan. So thank you for doing that. My one question is, now since we're public with this and it's being recorded, when is the update on the website for the city going to be done so that way this strategic plan can be available in Spanish and English for the community on that website?
So two things. We have our city page that's on the city website. As soon as the Spanish version is done, we're going to upload it to that. And we also created our own SCYTF, which is www.sc. We'll send it out. SCY Thrives. And that what we're hoping to do, and we're going to create a linked tree because we want our website to be like a place that you can go for any family resources, whether it's mental health, whether it's pro-social, who's doing what, events in our community. So you'll have it in 2 different places soon. And that should be done within like the next 2 weeks.
That's awesome. Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank you two and the whole task force for this work. I think it's tremendous, and it says a lot. It reiterates, what we've been hearing from youth, that come here, and also families on the street, and our previous survey, about the need for facilities, for spaces. I did have a question. Was there any requests or sharing of needs from LGBTQ youth? Yeah, could you speak to that?
Yes, we held several listening circles for youth, and we did have LGBTQ. They're really wanting, that's why the gender responsive, culturally sensitive pro-social and programming is in there. So we want to make sure we're looking at that and through painted respect to that lens. We did have a SAGE committee that was part of the SCYTF. Our fearless leader, Joseph has moved on, so we're looking for another co-chair. But that's very critical to the work that we're doing and the lens that we have.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies, I want to thank you for a wonderful presentation, very thorough, and I look forward to sort of being involved. One comment or one sort of note that you put on there, I know you guys have done a really good job in inviting us to different events, meet with different groups, but can you make sure that continues to happen? Because sometimes I see events going on and it's like, well, how do I get involved with that? I try to reach out to a group and I don't hear back. So if you can continue to send those out to us and inviting us and making us feel that we can be welcome, I would love to join some of those events. Thank you.
Okay, we have one speaker right?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Marty Estrada.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
All righty. This is a long day, a long night. Thank you, City Council members and Mayor. This is exactly why we need a youth center. See, I'm bringing it back full circle. We need a youth center because these folks are doing great work. Bernice and her crew from the South County Task Force, they're reaching out to a lot of youth. A lot of youth in what? Diversion program. Why do they need diversion program? Because they're getting in trouble. Issues are going on at school. This is why we need a youth center. And like them, GOTUS, which represents Community Agency Resources, Advocacy, and Services, has also gotten a big grant. And we're going to have a really great program for youth. And right now, we're bringing in youth 25 a day. And we're looking now strategically to looking for a youth hub, a building, a place that youth can go now because we don't have a youth center. But that's why it's important. We're going to be at the strategic plan with you guys on that Saturday because we want to also voice again that we need a youth center. Mr. Bracco told me that it took 23 years to build the library. We don't need to do that with the youth center. If you all agree, we can see what the community wants in a bond, put in a bond, and get this thing built. But we really need a youth center because it's important for youth. We have over 16,000 youth under the census to 2020 under 18 years old here in Gilroy. Now imagine, let's add another few thousand that are 18 and above. There's a lot of young people in the city that need services. And this multiple youth center that's going to be can be an aquatic center attached to that would be a great addition to the city of Gilroy, but it's more important for your constituents, your families, the youth. This is why we need a better approach because what we're doing now is a Band-Aid. Even GOTUS is doing a Band-Aid approach because we don't have the bandwidth. There's too many youth that are out there in the streets that are needing services. And instead of going to diversion, we want them to go to a youth center. They can get programming, parents can get programming, They can do it together. They can be a lab for work, homework, tutoring, all that stuff. And then teaching kids how to swim. So there's a lot of things we can do, but we need to think about doing it now. At least putting a plan together now. It's going to take, what, 4 or 5 years to build? Maybe 3 if we do it right, do it fast. We have a place here. We don't have to go through environmental concerns. But we have to do it together. But City Council, I know you say you have it on a plan. You have a plan to build a youth center, but it's not something that's elevated to the level of, is this a need that we need to do this today? We need to do it today for tomorrow for our youth. So please consider this youth plan, youth center that we want to build together. And let's do it now. Put your legacy on it. Put your name on it that you can be proud of for Gilroy and youth and families. Thank you.
All right, thank you. No others, correct? Public comment?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so moving on then to 12.2,